with your new friend Ty.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Tea Party Podcast. It's the podcast where you find new friends and new music. And this week I am joined by a native of the lands of 10,000 lakes who followed a collegiate hockey career with a leap into the music industry and just dropped a new single in February. Let's welcome to the show, Alannah McCready.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Alannah, how's your week going?
Oh, good. I'm about to head home, actually, to the land of 10,000 lakes tomorrow for a wedding. So,
sounds fun. Fun. Awesome. Well, we will tee off with Alannah McCready next.
It's time to tee off with Ty and today's guest, Alannah McCready. Here comes the first four.
Okay, here we go with question number one, Alannah. If you couldn't be in the entertainment or sports industry, what job would you have?
oh my gosh. Probably an interior designer, I would say. My friends and stuff will always joke around with me. They're like, in another life, you were Joanna Gaines. So probably something with interior design.
Awesome. Okay, how about this one? Okay. If I give you control of the music at a party, what's the first song you're going to play to get everybody going?
Oh my gosh. To get everybody going, probably... Oh my gosh. Maybe watch maybe T.I. Bring 'Em Out because it's a classic.
Oh, there you go. That is a good one. I like that.
Everyone going.
That definitely will. Okay, if you could bring a character from any TV show or movie to life in the real world, who would it be?
Oh my gosh.
These ones make you think a little bit.
I know. It's got to be a Game of Thrones character. Probably Khaleesi or Jon Snow.
That sounds dangerous. I like where your head's at, but
I know,
that sounds dangerous.
Okay, let's go with Jon Snow then. He doesn't bring dragons with him.
That's fair. Okay, here we go. Last question of the first four. If you could have an unlimited supply of anything, tacos, whiskey, guitar strings, scotch tape, whatever it is, what would it be?
Pink Starburst.
Oh, very specific.
Yes.
Also,
yes.
Big fan of your taste because the Pink Starbursts are always the best. Have you found any of those Pink Starburst packs?
Oh, yes. I get every year on my birthday, I get enough Pink Starburst from my friends. It lasts me like the whole year until my next birthday.
That is quality friendship right there.
I know,
You've
right?
surrounded yourself with good people.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Well, a lot of that was the first four. Thank you for playing along. But now let's turn the attention to you. Give us kind of the Cliff Notes version of growing up in Minnesota and tell us how you first got into music.
So growing up in Minnesota, as people in Minnesota would know, but it's cold. So when you can walk, you get your first pair of skates. And so I started playing hockey at a really young age, obviously because of that. But my mom is from Oklahoma. So she was always playing country music my entire childhood. So that's kind of where I first started to fall in love with country music, was because of my mom. And then, continuing to grow up and being in choir and doing musicals and all that stuff in school, I was like, you know what? I really love doing this. Being on stage makes me happy. And, my dream from such a young age was always to be doing this as a career. And it's actually funny. I was the only person in my entire school who was in choir and musicals and played a sport. So it's like unprecedented.
Really? The only one?
Yeah, the only one. They did not. So they had never before had to worry about scheduling for like choir concerts and games and things like that, like hockey games. And so I used to have to like bring the two together and be like, okay, so how are we going to schedule this? Because I can't miss either of these things.
Well, and folks that aren't around hockey, they don't realize when you're a hockey player, especially a good hockey player kind of going through high school and looking at what the next level is, your day starts so early. I mean, the ice rinks only have so many sheets, so you have to get there and get your practice in starting at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so I used to train goalie specific training at like 5:30. And then I was in a specialized like a cappella auditioned choir, there was only about like 12 of us. So I would go from my goalie training from like 5:30 to 6:30. And then I would go to my a cappella rehearsal from 7 to 8. And then school started and I was school all day. And then full team hockey practice right after school. And then homework and then do it all over again.
That is crazy. And I want to stay on hockey for just a minute because you were a goalie, which takes a very special type of person to want to stand in front of little rubber pucks. Yeah. I work with a college hockey team, with the Eastern Washington University hockey team here. And then I played hockey growing up and I was a soccer goalie, but those balls aren't coming nearly as fast in high school as the pucks are. What made you decide that you wanted that also? What made you decide that you wanted to be a goalie?
It's actually funny. My brother and I used to do camps all growing up. Obviously my parents put us in all the different skating camps and stuff like that. And when you're that young, like 9-10 years old, everyone takes the term playing goalie because when you're that young, like apparently no one likes to play goalie. It's like the dreaded thing, like, oh, I can't score goals. I gotta play goalie this time or, whatever. And so it was my turn to play goalie. And I think I got maybe 3 shots and we're like 10 years old. So these are not, high quality shots. And I got off the ice and apparently I went up to my parents and I was like, did you see how good I am at this? But I'm like, I didn't let anything in. I think I'm good at this. I think this is what I think I should play this position. My parents were like, okay, well, sure, if that's what you want to do, bless my parents. And they put me in all the goalie camps and all that kind of stuff. And then I think in high school, I was like, see?
You knew pretty early on. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I have a little brother who was in that same situation. I think he was, maybe a U8 or U10, and he got in goal and they took one shot and it hit him in the shin and he skated directly to the bench. Like, this is not for me.
That is so great. I love that so much.
Yeah, he still ended up being a defenseman, so he still threw himself in front of pucks. Apparently, he just didn't like the extra padding.
Well, it's a lot. You got to get used to it. But then, speaking of padding, as I got older, I always was trying to figure out ways to incorporate music and singing, into every aspect of my life. And so in high school, I used to sing the national anthem for our home games in my equipment in the penalty box and then put my helmet on and go play.
That is crazy because I know, like, when you get to that level of playing, you spend, an hour and a half before the game trying to psych yourself up, just get yourself in the zone. And then same thing with performing the anthem. You want to make sure that you're ready to go. So you kind of hustled all through high school, and that's fantastic.
Compartmentalization, I think.
Very much so. How much of that kind of helped you in that transition of becoming an artist when you made that decision? I mean, being able to compartmentalize like that and really the hustle mentality of that.
It's really what it is. Yeah, for sure. I actually talk about it all the time and I think about it all the time because I feel like people don't realize how different the mentality is, like the athlete mentality, especially when you play at such a high level. You have to be self-motivated. You have to, know how to structure your day. You have to, it's just so many things that come along with the structure of being an athlete at a high level mentally. And so when you're transitioning over and now I'm an independent artist, I didn't even realize at the time how similar the mental aspect of it is. I'm an independent artist, so I'm the only one that, it's just me. So, no one's going to want it more from me than me. And if you don't have like the drive or the mental toughness to be in this industry, because it is a roller coaster, I feel like having that athletic mentality my whole life of being like, okay, there's ups, there's downs in sports, there's ups, there's downs in what I do, and being able to sort of like work through those and, you know, be independent and make a schedule for myself every day, hold myself accountable and all of those things. I feel like being an athlete my entire life really, really helped me mentally, like, be able to handle this.
Well, and then even after high school, you ended up playing hockey for a pretty darn good Wisconsin Badgers team. We
were pretty good.
Yeah, you were part of 2 national championship teams, and you weren't too shabby yourself. A 919 save percentage, a 181 goals against average. I mean, those are pretty impressive numbers. And what people don't realize is when you get to that level of college athletics, it's not like playing for fun. I mean, it's a full-time job. Plus you added school on top of that. With all of that going on, did you even have time to think about music in college?
What's funny is that I think in college is when I started songwriting without really knowing it. Because of all those things that you just said, so busy. It's like having a full-time job. I mean, it's all day, all night. Your weekends are games. It's nonstop, plus school, plus, you know, all of the other things that come along with college. And I kept a journal in college, and a really detailed journal. And that ended up being, you know, the majority of my first album, you know, pieces that I chose from there and just experiences from being in college. And so I think that in the back of my mind, somehow I was like, you know what, I should probably write this stuff down because I'm going to need it later. And it ended up working out. And I mean, my whole first album was pretty much about relationships in college. So.
Well, and you really do kind of write about your own experiences. And I want to get into that in a little bit. But first, do you have any fun college hockey stories? I mean, I know I'm not a player and I've got a ton, not a lot that I can share.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
is there one that kind of sticks out that you can share with everybody?
I mean, not a lot of them I can share.
That's fair.
But I mean, winning 2 national championships is something that I never even imagined that would happen to me. But when it happens, it's so surreal. And I think one of the coolest things is when you do win national championship, you get to meet the president, which is like, how does that even coincide with any of that? And so just being able to have those experiences that are truly once in a lifetime experiences, I am so grateful and thankful to, you know, my alma mater and just how amazing they treated us and the things that I was being able to experience that I never would have been able to if I wasn't there.
That's awesome. I mean, playing college hockey at a high level is one thing, you know, being part of a team that's competitive is something else, but, you know, actually going out there and being able to win a national championship and getting to do all the cool little things that people don't think about that come from that, like meeting the president, those have got to be pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. And, you know, it's interesting because people are like, oh, and you did this and you did this. And it's like, if you only knew the little things and how much, you know, we get so excited and we love it so much and we talk about it and enjoy it so much because it is so much work. So it's like, you know, it's the payoff that you're finally getting.
Definitely. So then after college, you ended up moving to New York. You worked in sports management and including working with some NFL players, which sounds like a really cool job.
Yeah.
But how much did, you know, doing that sort of thing and seeing the behind the scenes of representation and marketing and that sort of thing, how much did that help you in your career as an independent artist?
A lot. I, especially now that, you know, I'm doing interviews, I'm on the other side of it now. And I feel like being a part of that and kind of running the daily lives of those players and setting up interviews and just logistics and all of that jazz that comes with all that. I think it's really helping me now, especially as an independent artist, because knowing how to promote myself, social media, knowing, having the wherewithal in interviews and just knowing what people expect when it comes to promoting myself and that kind of stuff. Obviously, it's constantly evolving because social media is constantly evolving, but it definitely helped me kind of be able to start without being from scratch, of trying to be like, how am I going to promote myself, or how am I going to do this as an independent artist? And I'm so thankful that I've had that experience to then apply it to myself and my industry, which, it's the same across the board, no matter what industry.
That is true. And what was it that kind of pushed you to pursue this career as a musician? I mean, it sounds like a pretty fun job that you had in New York. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there was this passion burning inside of you the entire time, but was there some kind of light switch moment or something that really kind of pushed you towards, hey, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, my uncle is a recording artist as well. And he was living in LA at the time, and I would go visit them and just, do little things musically with him every now and then. And every time I would come home and I'd be like, God, I want to do this. I want to do this full time. This is what I want to do. And I'm sitting here, and I'm in this comfortable job in New York. I love my job. I love living in New York, all of those things. But I'm like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And so I talked to my uncle, and he set up a meeting with a producer down here in Nashville. And I came down here and recorded for the first time professionally in professional setting, and did a couple songs and talked to the producer afterwards. And I was like, you know what, you don't you don't gain anything from this. You don't know me, you don't anything, but based off of what you've just seen, what we've talked about, I think I should be doing this as a career. This is what I want to do as a career. Like, what do you think that this is something I should pursue? And he said, yeah, I think you can do this. And I said, okay. So I quit my job and I moved. So I just, I've always sort of been the type of person that's, if I think I can do something or I set my mind to something, I just do it, no matter if it involves moving states or just anything crazy. Like, if it feels right, I'm going to do everything I can to do it.
I mean, that's got to be a real kind of ego boost when you talk to somebody like that who understands the industry, understands the music side of the business, and they say, yeah, no, I think that you should pursue this. I mean, that definitely helped, right?
Oh, for sure. I think that was sort of because, my doubt is, how am I going to get into this industry? I have no idea what it takes, what anything, if I'm, if I'm cut out for it, if I'm, any of these things, and to have someone who's in the industry and experienced in all of these things tell me, yeah, if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to, make the move and all of this stuff, I think you could be successful in this, which he gains nothing from telling me that. He could have been like, you don't quit your day job. And, and so it was just sort of like, you know what, that was kind of like the last little straw that I was like, I knew that I should, but now I'm like, okay, here I go.
So then from there, did you move directly to Nashville?
I didn't. I went to Nashville, or came to Nashville because I recorded my first album half here in Nashville and half in LA. But I was living in Atlanta. So I lived in Atlanta for the last 8 years, and I just moved to Nashville permanently in February.
What was that first trip to Nashville like for you as an artist, when you knew this is what I'm coming here to do, is to start recording an album? What were you feeling?
Excited, nervous that I wasn't going to be good at songwriting or, or recording. Playing live is much different than recording, obviously. And so recording a whole album as my first, sort of step into this industry was extremely nerve-wracking, but I loved it. I loved every second of it. And then from that point forward, I was like, there is nothing else that I want to do.
And I could totally understand that. I just got back from Nashville on Tuesday morning. Is that what time it was by the time we got home? We got stuck in Denver for like 8 hours. That was my first trip to Nashville. And I had a bunch of conversations with musicians down there, and they all kind of expressed the same thing, that their first time they're like, is this really what I should be doing? But yeah. It sounds like, it's been long enough. You've been building up this fan base, and it seems to have been the right decision for you. And I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about your songwriting and what that's like. But first, I want to give everybody kind of an idea of what you're going for. If somebody says, hey, what style of music do you play? How would you describe your sound to somebody that's never heard you before?
The ultimate question.
Right.
I would say that, I'm definitely country, but it's contemporary country with some soul, I would say is my vibe.
I like it.
And
that is a good description.
Is it? Okay. I like to teeter on the line between country and pop and a little bit of rock. Like, I like my music to sort of hover above all of those, because that's like the culmination of who I am.
Well, and honestly, I'm not even sure that those lines exist anymore. Everybody is so much more cross genre now. It's really hard to find a country artist that is just a country artist.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, so I think that was great. But okay, I want to give everybody a chance to hear your new single before we talk about your songwriting style. This one's called Something Like That. It came out in February. Give us the story of how this song came about and what the songwriting process was like.
So it was quarantine 2020, obviously, or the time no one speaks of. But I was trying to figure out, what I'm going to do, because I was touring a ton and playing a ton of shows on the road and all those things. And that stopped abruptly, obviously. And so I'm like, okay, I need that outlet. I need that creative outlet. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do a new project. And I looked back and it clicked for me that apparently I get that feeling every 3 years, because each of my albums are 3 years apart for some reason. And so I was talking to my best friend, Will Gittins, and his brother, who is Sterling, who is his producer. And I was like, I think I'm going to do a project. Like, would you guys want to do it with me? And they were like, let's do it. So in quarantine, and in their studio, in their house, we wrote and recorded an EP. For me, Will and I wrote all the songs and Sterling produced them all. And Something Like That is actually the first one we did. And we were just sitting there trying to figure out what we wanted to write about, the vibe, all of, the whole songwriting process. And Will played something, silly on the guitar, and he was like, or something like that. And we both looked at each other. We were like, light bulb. Like, we don't know what the song's going to be about, but that's the title. And it sort of evolved into kind of what I feel like women and men these days kind of have all these super specific expectations in relationships. And they're like, oh, I need this exact thing, or I'm not going to be happy in this relationship. And we sort of wanted to take a step back and be like, okay, what do you truly need though? And for me, don't lie to me, be nice to me, spend time with me. Those are things that should be a given. And if you can't give me those or something like that, something along those lines, then it's probably not going to work.
Well, here, let's give everybody a chance to listen to it. This one is called Something Like That from today's guest, Alannah McCready.
Been cheated on about 3 times. Went running back when he apologized. I didn't know my worth, and that's fine. Now I can tell when it don't feel right. Now I'm stronger and I know myself better. And it feels so good to know that I will never go back again. So baby, tell me, are you sure that you're ready? I'm not asking for too much, but if you want my love, then you gotta know. All I want is a little more conversation. All I need is for you to not have me waiting. Have bad luck with men that lie. Just give me your time. Boy, a love like that, that's where I'm at. Something like that. Fool me twice, that's shame on me. The third time I learned how it should be a man that's true and a love that's real. Something like that is what I need. And now I'm stronger and I know myself better. I'm not asking for too much, but if you want my love, then you gotta know. All I want is a little more conversation. All I need is for you to not have me waiting. Have bad luck with men that lie. Just give me your time. Boy, a love like that, that's where I'm at. Something like that. Something like that. Something like that. Yeah. All I want is a little more conversation. All I need is for you to not have me waiting. Have bad luck with men that lie. Just give me your time. Boy, a love like that, that's where I'm at. Something like that. All I want is a little more conversation. All I need is for you to not have me waiting. Have bad luck with men that lie. Just give me your time. Boy, a love like that, that's where I'm at. Something like that.
And that one was called Something Like That. It's the newest single from Alannah McCready. And Alannah, you put this song out in February of this year, sort of right at the beginning of everything kind of starting to open up. Was that something that you had been holding on to and waiting for the right time to release it? Or did you just feel like, you had this song and it was time to release it right then?
It was definitely a plan. I have an amazing team. My PR team, PR firm, Aristo, they're amazing. And we sort of made a plan, and the song was done. And, I knew I wanted to do the full EP this year as well. And so we were like, you know what, everything's starting to open back up. I'm moving to Nashville. I'm going to start being able to play live, play out all the things. Let's, drop a single and drop this single, and then, see how it does and see how people respond to it, and then figure out the plan for the EP from there.
Well, and you've mentioned it a couple of times. You've got an EP coming out. Do you have any details for everybody on a general idea of when it might be out? As something we can look forward to in 2021 or 2022? Without getting yourself in trouble.
I know. I need to, it's every interview. I remind myself, I need to ask what I'm allowed to say. It's going to be this year. I'm 99% sure on that. It's a 5-song EP, and Something Like That will be on it. And then 4 other tracks. And one of them is actually a duet. Will and I wrote a duet about, kind of about I feel like being in quarantine and writing songs kind of gave everyone an opportunity to write about things that they couldn't before. If that makes sense. Or just things that we'd never had to think about before, like not being able to see people that you love. And so I feel like it kind of gives this whole project a different point of view, which I'm happy about.
Well, and where can people keep up with everything that you have going on and keep up when you're ready to release that EP? Like what are your social handles?
So my socials are everything across the board: Facebook, Instagram, all of the things are Alannah McCready Music. So it's just easy across the board. And then my Facebook and my Instagram profiles, the link to something like that on all the platforms is in my bios for that. And I post all the time, and I'll be giving updates on everything. And then obviously my website will have all the information as well.
Awesome. And we will make sure to put the URL to your website, a clickable link here in the podcast description.
Perfect.
For this episode. But I want to pivot back a little bit and talk about your overall songwriting. When you sit down to write a song, do you have a specific process that you follow, or does it change every time? What's it look like for you?
I think I have sort of a loose process that I like to follow, but it definitely changes depending on if I'm doing a co-write or if I'm writing by myself. I love doing co-writes because I love seeing other people's styles, and I love writing with other people because they pull different things out of you, I think. So it's always fun to do those, but I don't play any instruments well enough to accompany myself. So when I'm writing, it's usually lyrics, melodies in my head first, and then music.
And when you sit down to write, obviously, you're very raw and real when you sit down to write. You pull on these past experiences, but with your first album, Love Hangover, you kind of knew what that was going to be. You knew the types of instances and memories and experiences that you were going to pull from. Is that kind of what you do every time that you sit down for a project? Do you write all of the songs based kind of from this same part of your life or from the same type of experiences? Or do you just kind of write whatever there is and then you grab songs that fit those experiences and put them on an album?
I think a little bit of both, especially for my first two albums. This EP though was definitely, I did not have any expectations or, kind of guidelines going into writing these songs. They just sort of came about, like Will and I just having conversations with each other about, and then something would spark. And I think that is also a testament to writing with someone who knows you so well. I'd be like, what if we do something like this? And I could say something like this. And he'd be like, that's not really what you would say in real life. What would you really say? Because I know it's not what you would really say. And so it's sort of like, pushed me. And I think that this whole project sort of ended up that way, where it was conversations that turned into songs. And then I tried to make them as relatable as possible.
Well, Alannah, it has been an absolute blast. We're definitely going to have to do this again in the future. But before we let you go, we end every show the same way. It's called the Final Four, pretty similar to how it started.
Okay.
Little bit of a tough questions.
Oh, geez. Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
It's time for the Final Four.
Okay. They're not as tough. This
Okay.
one, what's your favorite venue that you've ever played in?
As far as like a live music venue, Eddie's Attic, just because I love the vibe in there. But as far as like venue, like a big venue, the Summerfest stages for sure.
Okay. And then this one, you can definitely cheat if you want.
Okay.
Who are your three most recently played artists on your Spotify or Apple?
Oh, I can cheat. Oh, I don't have to cheat. I'll just tell you.
Oh, there you go.
Listening to a lot of Carly Pierce recently. And who else? Quite a bit of Pop Smoke and Kygo.
Okay.
Which I mean, if you really think about it, that probably just sums up who I am as a person in those three artists.
Okay, how about this for question 3 of the final 4? What's your favorite on-stage memory?
Oh my goodness. I think we were playing South by Southwest a couple of years ago, and I played my song Ricochet Heart live acoustically, and this girl came up to me and she was just crying hysterically, and I'm like, what's wrong? And she was like, I just broke up with my boyfriend. And she's like, I haven't even cried yet, and just hearing your song and the lyrics, this is my first cry, and I feel like I'm gonna be okay now. And that made me cry, and that's hands down my favorite.
And that sounds like one that's going to stick with you for a long time.
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. Last question. And this one, again, take as much time to think about it as you want, or as little.
Oh, geez.
If you could pick one thing for people to take away from this podcast and from your music in general, what would it be?
Everything is going to be okay. You may think, that what you're going through is the end of the world, but everything is going to be okay, because I promise you, in all my music, when I was writing these songs, I thought, is tomorrow even going to come? I'm heartbroken, or I'm all these things, and time heals everything, and everything is going to be okay.
There you go. Everything is going to be okay. Alannah,
Yes.
Thank you so much for jumping on here. I know it took us a couple weeks to get it set up.
Thank you
but
so much.
It was
I know,
such
I'm
a
sorry about
blast.
that.
No worries at all. We'll definitely have to do it again in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that was another episode of the Tea Party Podcast, guys. It's a country music podcast where you find new friends and new music like Alannah McCready and Something Like That.
Go tee off on the like button at facebook.com/Tea Party Podcast. This has been a Tea Party Communications production. Theme music created by Jesse Quandt. Announcer voiceovers by Gwinn. And as always, hosted by Ty Pisani.